안녕하세요 여러분. So I've been feeling very unmotivated lately and I've just kept on thinking to myself, I don't feel like doing this, I can't do this, I don't want to do this. And that gave me an idea for today's episode where I decided that we will go over negative sentences in Korean and how they're formed, how do we turn verbs and adjectives into their negative counterparts, and therefore how do we make negative sentences in Korean in general. So let's get started. Alright, so the most common way to form a negative sentence is to add a negative particle to the verb or the adjective in that sentence. And that part is 지 않다. So if you have 가다, it would turn into 가지 않다 or 하지 않다, 사지 않다, 먹지 않다. It doesn't matter whether the verb is regular or irregular, how you conjugate it, whether it changes when you conjugate it, like be irregular or nearly irregular verbs, it does not matter. You just take the stem, you add the 지 않다, and you are done. And then when you have the verb with the negative particle connected to it, you just conjugate the negative particle. Like it would be a new verb. 않다 still ends on a da, so you just conjugate it, like always. So if you're saying that you're not going to school, you can just say 학교에 가지 않아요. I'm not going to school. If you haven't eaten dinner last night, you can say 어젯밤에 저녁을 먹지 않았어요. And in the future tense, you can say something like 내일 운동하지 않을 거예요. Tomorrow, I'm not going to exercise. And now, let's move on to instances when you cannot physically do something. And that's when you use 지 못하다. You connect it to verbs and adjectives in the same principle as 지 않다. So 가지 못하다, 먹지 못하다, 하지 못하다, 사지 못하다, 타지 못하다. And I just want you guys to keep in mind that these negative additions can be added both to verbs and adjectives, or how they're sometimes called active verbs and descriptive verbs, because like we know, adjectives and verbs have the same qualities in Korean. I'm saying that because there's something that you can't add to adjectives later on. But before that, let me throw a couple of 지 못하다 examples at you guys. So let's say you're at a concert and you're a girl and you're like 5 feet tall and you can't see anything. And someone's asking you, 볼 수 있어요? And you answer with 보지 못해요. Nope, I cannot. Or let's say your friend has a bike and they're asking you, 탈 수 있어요? Can you ride it? And you've never been taught by your parents how to ride a bike and you just answer honestly, 타지 못해요. Nope, I cannot write it. There's actually another way to say I can or cannot in Korean, and that is 할 수 있어요. It's basically 을 수 있어요. But it has a slight difference from 지 못해요 in a way that 지 못해요 is very strong. If you're saying that, that means you are physically incapable of doing something. For example, if you broke your leg and you can't walk, you would say 가지 못해요, not 갈 수 없어요, because 갈 수 없어요 is more like, I don't really have the ability to walk, which is not true because you do have the ability to walk, but because you broke your foot, you are physically unable to do it right now, or you couldn't do it before. So there's that slight difference. Native Korean speakers don't usually think about it that much, so they would say whatever fits the situation, and most of the time I would say they say 지 못하다. But again, it really depends on the situation. So don't worry too much. I will put the explanation for 을 수 없어요 or 있어요 in the blog post, so make sure to check that out, okay? Alright, so now that we know the 지 않다 and 지 못하다, we're ready to know that you can actually shorten them. And there are shortened versions of both of these, I don't know, verb modifiers? I don't know how you call them in English. And those are 안 for 않다 and 못 for 못하다. So instead of saying 학교에 가지 않아요, you would say 학교에 안 가요. Means the same thing. So let's actually see the difference between 안 and 못. So if I want to say that I haven't eaten today, I would say 오늘 안 먹었어요. I haven't eaten today. But if you want to say that I couldn't eat today, you would say 오늘 못 먹었어요. I couldn't. Haven't and couldn't. Or you can clearly spot the difference between something like 숙제를 안 해요 or 숙제를 못 해요. I didn't do the homework or I couldn't do the homework. This is where the catch with verbs and adjectives comes in, and you cannot use 안 or 못 with descriptive verbs or adjectives. You can only use these guys with action verbs. Also, when it comes to verbs that end on 하다, like 공부하다, 수영하다, you actually put the 안 or 못 in between before 하다 part. So if you want to say you didn't swim, you would say 수영 안 했어요. Or if you want to say that I couldn't study, you would say 공부 못 했어요. Or if you want to say that you will not be able to answer a certain question, you can say 대답 못 할 거예요. I will not be able to answer. Alright, so like I said, if you want more practice, if you want more examples and more explanations, head over to the blog post. Everything's going to be there in writing. And now we have our weekly challenge time. Here's the dialogue. 자고 있어요? 아니요, 안 자요. 처음으로 악몽을 꿨어요. 제 집에 올 수 있어요? 내일 일찍부터 일이 있어요. 미안해요, 못 가요. Alright, so that was the dialogue. Leave your translations in the comments and I will make sure to check them and let you know if you're right or wrong, if you almost got there or you didn't. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you learned something and I hope you guys all have a wonderful weekend. I'll see you next week. Bye! 안녕!